Welcome to another Dragonlance Saga creator episode. My name is Adam, and today I'm talking with the talented individuals behind the Dragonlance Nexus. You can visit their website and find out why they have been the premier destination online for Dragonlance content for over 21 years now. I'd like to take a moment and thank the members of this YouTube channel and invite you to consider becoming a member by visiting the links in the description below. You can even pick up Dragonlance gaming materials using my affiliate link. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
Doing good. Thanks for having us here.
Yeah, doing great. Thanks for letting us be on.
I'm really excited to finally be able to connect with you guys. I reached out to you a long time ago, and we had a little bit of back and forth trying to get scheduled to match up. But again, life is what life is, and now we're here, and I'm very, very happy to speak with you guys because not only have you been a sort of a mainstay for Dragonlance fandom throughout the years as the popularity has ebbed and waned and different IP different versions of the game have come out. It's even switched games systems. And, you guys have always been ever present, keeping the fandom going. And I genuinely appreciate everything you've done. Actually, a quick little side note too. I met one of my gaming friends in your old forums when you still had forums on your site. Years ago, and we're still like lifelong friends. So it's a great resource for any fan.
It's amazing what friendships have popped up through Dragonlance, through the Dragonlance community, and I have several friends who make my days so much brighter.
You have friends?
And Chuck.
And here we go.
Well, you have me. What else do you need?
I'm all the friend you need.
He's the bright point in my life.
That's just a reflection off the light.
I wasn't going to say that.
I thought it was my ring light, but actually it's not. It's just
you can see the halo above me. Now that secretly is not a light. That is a reflection off of the bald spot back there. So
nice. All right. Well, for the sake of those who may not know who the two of you are, let's do a brief introduction. Trampas, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Trampas Whiteman. I'm co-creator of the Dragonlance Nexus, along with Tracy Hickman and Matthew Haig. I started that site when I was about 29 or 28, and I'm a little older than that now. I've co-authored 3 of the Dragonlance source books for 3.5, Races of Ancelon, Knightly Orders of Ancelon, and Holy Orders of the Stars, and did a little work with the comic book adaptation of The Legend of Huma.
Oh, nice.
And I'm just around Dragonlance fandom quite a bit. That's
just
me.
Immersed. You're silly. You're lousy with Dragonlance fandom. It's just all over you. Chuck, it's very nice to meet you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I've been around for a while, not quite as long as Trampas.
Pretty close.
Pretty close. Some of my past stuff I've worked on was Lost Leaves of the Inn of the Lost Home.
Nice.
I've got a piece in there. I've also was the lead designer on Tasslehoff's Pouches of Everything, and the lead designer / writer / I don't know, grunt for the Champions of Krynn series that we're doing right now. So
jack of all trades.
So yeah. Sometimes when those staff meetings happening, you're the only one in the room. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I just want to say, the group that we have that runs the Nexus, we call ourselves the Whitestone Council. Mm-hmm. And I've been very lucky throughout the years to have been surrounded by a lot of talented people, such as Chuck. That's your compliment of the week, by the way.
Make sure the check's in there.
But it's there's just a lot of talented people who have worked on the site throughout the years, and I'm just very lucky to have them along because they're the ones who keep it going. I try to sit here to look pretty, but again, Chuck, or I guess this way.
Well, can I ask you, You had mentioned you're one of the co-creators of the website, DragonlanceNexus.com. What was the original intent behind the website?
Okay, so this was a this is something that has a few origins all in one. Basically, at the time, so we're talking fall of 2000,
Right.
very early 2001. You know, Dragonlance fandom was on a mailing list, the Dragonlance L mailing list. There was also the alt.fan.dragonlance news group. And there were a lot of different voices, different opinions and such. And a lot of people kept saying, we should do something. We should do something. And I'm here like, well, why don't you do something then? And so I started talking to people and figuring out who the big people in fandom were and kind of got them together. And so we were starting up something. And I had talked with Matt Haig, who ran what was then Dragonlance.com. And we had this wonderful 45-minute conversation, and we teamed up. And so we were starting to build a website to do D20 content. And then Tracy Hickman comes along and is like, hey, I got this Dragonlance Nexus idea. And basically the idea was that he would put together kind of a branding, if you will, that if you wanted to be a site within this network of sites, you know, you just go with the branding, and then you'd be part of this. And on top of that, that's when Jim Butler came along, and then of Wizards of the Coast. So he was starting up all the, you know, denoting certain fan sites as official fan sites for the various D&D settings.
Right.
So, you know, like Athos.org, Birthright.net, and so on and so forth. And so they were trying to decide which one would be for Dragonlance. And so, yeah, when Tracy came along, I'm just like, well, I give. There's no beating Tracy. And then I talked to Tracy. And next thing I know, his Nexus idea and the Whitestone Council idea I had, and all of Matt's knowledge and technical know-how came together and formed the original DL3E.com site, you know, which we've gotten away from that URL because the editions change.
Oh, yeah.
And so our goal's been to keep Dragonlance alive. You know, we focus a lot on gaming. That was our original focus. And we were starting to gain some traction after a year, because we had no idea what we were doing. And after a year, we were starting to figure out things such as you can't design by committee. And so it was, gosh, I want to say about April of 2002, I get a message from Margaret Weiss saying, can I call you? I'm here like, what?
Hell,
And
yes,
so
please.
we talked, and it's when she told me that, hey, just so you know, Sovereign Press has just got the license for Dragonlance. We're going to make an announcement soon. And I'm here thinking, my initial thought is, well, we're done. And you know, but at least she was nice and respectful to call me. She's like, and I want you and your team to be part of the process.
It's pretty awesome.
And so me and Matt went to visit Margaret in her home, which is a beautiful old, it's a barn basically that's been turned into a home. And I got to see some amazing original artwork there, including the piece with Raceland and Chrysania.
Oh, yeah.
You know, where he's holding her like that. And I tell you, as beautiful as that is on a screen in print, seeing it in person is just a step above, you know. So we've just been very lucky throughout the years to been the right place, right time. We had a wonderful stint with Sovereign Press / Margaret Weiss Productions. Several of us have, gone on. Cam has been one of our main success stories. He's worked quite a bit with Margaret Weiss Productions and Atlas Games, and now I believe he's doing stuff with Fandom with the Cortex rules. And then Sean McDonald, the guy who wrote the Kincyclopedia, he's been a cartographer. He's learned how to do cartography, and so he did stuff for Margaret Weiss Productions. But now he's gone on and he's done stuff for Green O'Neill. He's done stuff for WotC, and cool. I tell you, I surround myself by talented people, and I just hold on for the ride.
So, Chuck, can I ask when you were first got involved in Dragonlance Nexus, how that took place?
That's a long time ago.
I banned him from the forums. You remember that?
He did. Yeah, I've been banned. Yep, that's one of our first interactions. I think I came on board the Nexus team about 2005, 4.
Like oh, sorry.
A couple years before I got married, so I think it was 2004. I started writing for the the Planthus Herald at the time.
Yes.
Just doing little articles there and here and there, and kind of over the years, kind of worked my way up through the ranks, if you would say. Moving on to kind of some historical pieces and writing some loose organizations in 3rd edition, 3.5. I kind of skipped over 4E because I'm a gamer.
Everyone did.
It was a group. I followed the group, so the group said skip, so I just went with them. So, but yeah, during that time, I did a lot of, when 4E was the setting, I did a lot of historical writing, a lot of treatises for the Nexus. I would take a topic or an area and kind of write up the past history of it.
Wow.
Researching it, spending a lot of time because, I couldn't do 4E content like most people. And then when 5E...
I tried.
Well, about my writing?
No, I was saying I tried doing 4E content.
I said I cried.
I was going to ask, I was like, you tried or you cried?
Well, that's a whole nother topic.
Both. We'll just say both.
But with 5E, when it rolled around, I slowly embraced it. I came back into role-playing at this time. I mean, I grew up being a 2nd edition guy. Played a lot of 2nd edition. Even in the later stages of my life, I still play a lot of 2nd edition. That's AD&D. 2nd edition's been my calling. And when 5E came back around, I felt some similar connections to 2nd edition. So when I started writing things for the Nexus, I started doing a lot of looking back into that 2nd edition material that came out and saying, well, there's some great ideas here. How can we update these? How can we take this idea and move it forward versus how do I just create something brand new? Right. Trying to recapture some of that original idea in the Dragonlance Adventures and moving that to the fifth edition, which was my primary goal with most of what I do.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, he taught me stuff about the Knights of Slomnia I didn't even know.
Oh, really?
And I always thought, I'm a decent expert on this, and Chuck's teaching me, originally the knighthoods, you didn't go from crown to sword to rose, and I'm like, what? He was right.
Yeah, it's in DLA, and Tracy agrees. That's the other thing.
Yeah. That's great. So it's just kind of interesting what you learn along the way and how you think of certain things and how that all changes.
Yeah, I mean, especially just between the editions alone. I mean, it can take, small little adjustments, or it can take dramatic leaps. which is something I find really interesting. You know, and sort of on that topic, if we can, because, you know, we talked about, you know, the different editions and, you know, which ones you were more connected to or involved with. When it comes to Dragonlance, you know, is there something that encapsulates Dragonlance for you? Maybe an era, or maybe a character organization, or maybe a novel? Like, is there something that just connects? Like, when you think of Dragonlance, this is what you think of.
Oh gosh. Yes.
All right, you got to tell us now.
Okay, so when I think of Dragonlance, 4 things come to mind. Well, no, not 4. A few things come to mind right away. You know, Knights of Solamnia, Wizards of High Sorcery, Minotaurs, because you got to have Minotaurs, Kinder, and dragons. You know, those are your big things. You got all that, you're good to go. I know some people would argue with me on the Minotaurs. Chuck needs dwarves.
See, to me, what interests me is I grew up. I read the original six novels, and then the next novel I read was Flint the King, and to me, Flint the King captures what Dragonlance is.
Wow.
It covers that story of triumphing good over evil, don't judge a book by its cover, you know, type thing. But yeah, and how evil does turn in on itself. So it covers that core principle of the original 6 books, but does it in one book.
Yeah.
And it involves lots of dwarves.
Wow.
So,
I'm very fond of the Knights of Takhisis. Yeah, the Dragon armies are cool. Don't get me wrong. But the Knights of Takhisis, that's where it's at, because they answer the question, what if evil didn't turn upon itself?
Yeah, for at least a while.
And it worked for a while. And then Takhisis
a couple
was
years.
Takhisis, you know.
Till that one summer.
That's right. It was a great summer.
Everyone ran out of ice.
Brian Adams wrote about that.
I was just thinking summer of '69.
Nice.
Oh man, good times. No, I just love them though, because here's this group, and they've got honor, but it's not the same sort of honor as the Knights of Solamnia. It's a very dark honor. And yeah, I was lucky enough to write the chapter up for them in Knightly Orders of Ancelon. I'm here like, well, okay, what's my inspiration for this? And I hate to say it, Nazi Germany. That was part of my inspiration. And you know, but I mean, I just like the idea that in one knighthood, you not only had warriors, you had clerics and you had mages as well.
Yeah, that was the big one, is the addition of mages in the order. You know, contrasting it with Solamnia.
To me, that's what makes Ariakan more interesting than Ariakas. Ariakas, he's just like, oh, well, I'm a big bad guy. I run the dragon armies, blah. But Ariakan is interesting to me because he's like, hey, we've made mistakes in the past. That's why we've lost. Let's learn from them.
Yeah.
And let's adapt. And so that creates the lesson of the ironwood tree, you know, which is your foundation is solid, but the limbs of the ironwood, you know, they move in the wind.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. I'm doing my best not to make Nazi jokes. I can just reorder some of your language, and we could have real problems coming out of this interview.
That sounds terrible. And you know, the Nazis were bad dudes, but I'm here like, I've got to write about villains.
Yeah, that's a given. We don't have to.
You know, and I had to really think like a villain, and at one point I was scaring myself a little bit. So
I personally, I'm a big horror fan, and so I love being on this side of the villain, and I always loved exploring Verminard, and I loved exploring the idea of, I mean, we're all going to say things differently whenever we talk about Dragonlance, but Ericus, I always saw him differently than, you know, maybe some people where, you know, I actually really liked the bad guys because they felt bad. You know what I mean? And to have that contrast between the good and the bad, I think is incredibly important, especially in a high fantasy world like this, where it's easy to get muddled. Well, everyone's not quite good and everyone's not quite bad, but no. We had like stark contrast in Dragonlance. That's what helped really define, that ultimate struggle, which the entire campaign world is built on by, Tracy Hickman of the good, neutrality, and evil, the pillars. So let's talk a little bit about, because you guys have been working on conversion material from the beginning, keeping the Dragonlance community at large alive and thriving, seeing an influx of new people as new products come out or as people discover them on their own. What are some of the challenges that you face maintaining not the mechanics of a website, but maybe the pressure that comes with trying to maintain a community? Because certainly there's disparate ideas and people struggling and arguing. And we had mentioned off camera that, or maybe it was at the very beginning of our conversation, where, part of your mission statement was to try to maintain a semblance of respect amongst disparate views. So is there difficulty with that?
Oh yeah. And what you have to realize about Dragonlance fans is we Dragonlance fans are very passionate because we love this world so much. And sometimes our passions get away from us a little bit. And, like
It's
when
the
I came
Nazi
on
in
this,
us.
I'm going to regret this. I'm going to be canceled tomorrow.
Yeah, I could have told you you're going to regret that statement. I am not affiliated with Trampas' viewpoint on this, by the way.
For the record, I am the son of a World War II veteran, so he served in the Pacific.
Yeah, no question about your loyalty here.
So, no, but like when I came on the scene, so you have to realize what Dragonlance was like at the time. There were 4th Age fans and 5th Age fans. There were AD&D fans, and there were Saga fans. Saga was the game system for Dragonlance 5th Edition. And it was award-winning, even though a lot of Dragonlance fans weren't too fond of it. But
like most.
and then you had a few people who were Talados fans, and but most people were Ancelon fans, and so you got all these different things going on. And meanwhile, 3rd edition is still within its infancy. 3E came out 2000, and so hadn't even been a year yet. And I know when I was getting into it, I'm looking at 3E like, what the hell is this? And it was I might have been kicking and screaming as I'm looking at this and learning, but I did learn. And I found out there's a lot of good there. And I see all this bickering going on online, and I just said, hey, all points of view are valid here. And I think just showing a little respect towards people and leading by example and trying to shape conversations, I might go down a rabbit hole and even follow a viewpoint I don't necessarily agree with, but just to say, let people have a chance to talk and to express their opinion. And when they feel heard, people are so much better, and it's a challenge. I mean, even today there are people who go in and they say, well, 5E's crap or 2E's crap or whatever. And I'm like, who cares? Honestly, who really cares? Because the goal is to have a game. The goal is to play your game and have fun. Who cares how you get to the destination as long as you get there? It doesn't matter if I drive a Ford or a Chevy. Well, don't drive a Ford, but it doesn't matter what type of vehicle I drive. I'll still get to that destination. And it's just you use the engine that works best for you.
Yeah, a really great whiskey channel that always says the best whiskey is the whiskey you like the way you like to drink it. And so, that's like sort of the mantra I take with any of the content I create, because I'm a huge fan of first edition. I love second edition. I actually played and enjoyed Saga. I played fourth edition, and I played third edition with Dragonlance, fourth edition on its own, and I played 2 or 3 games of fifth edition. Some of it I, enjoy, some of it I don't. But the fact is it's still Dragonlance whenever I'm playing it, and that's the core of it. I mean, the fact that you have such a rich, diverse world that you can convert to literally any gaming system you want, and it still stays intact and powerful. That's all you really need to know. And we can celebrate the campaign world without, taking out our knives and fighting over additions or systems. That seems ridiculous in my opinion. That being said, you guys did go through, I would only imagine, the pain of converting Dragonlance into 5th edition before anyone ever even suspected Wizards of the Coast would even think of doing it. So can we talk about that process a little bit? What was it like, the approach to, what were your original reference materials that you were using in order to convert to 5th edition? I think it's
Chuck, I'm going to let you take the lead on this one.
So our original... pull the curtain behind. Everything Trampas is about building community and how we all love each other. When you're in that converting process and designing process, a lot of that goes out the window.
Yeah. It's all boxing gloves, and
there's several times people walk away from conversations, don't talk for a day or 2.
Oh wow!
It's as we. But the thing is, we're all very passionate Dragonlance fans. So that's the first thing. Is when we all came together, Tim, Shiflet, Ed Nico, John Ryan, and myself, we're kind of all 4 of us together, the driving force behind a lot of these rules. And we've had about 150 people who play tested these rules. Wow. So kind of really iron those kinks out. And one of the things I was adamant about when we first started was to go back to the roots. Yeah. To look at the original material. What was the original intent of the material? Because as things have changed over the years, we've lost things, or stories have been converted into urban myths now, basically. Yeah. Then knighthood is a prime example, and DLA is presented in 2 different ways. You have the class system of them ranking up, and you have it listed as you're born into it. And so, which is correct, and that was a 2-week fight over which version is correct, and it really came down to Tracy had done a live cast one time, and he had mentioned basically he wished he'd redone it so it matched up more just with you're born into it. Right. So, and that's the approach we kind of started taking on some of these things. Was let's look at a DLA, let's look at the original Tales of Lance box set, let's look at that player handbook that came out, 2nd edition, and let's pull the content out of there, and let's try to update it. Let's try to make it into that 5e relevancy, because not everything crosses over exactly. I mean, you cannot just pull stats and just change them. Yeah. You have to try to figure out how those mechanics work in that 5th edition. The knighthood was a prime example. It's one of the things that originally when we took it on, I wanted to do it as a background. Tim wanted to do it as a faction. And then we came together one weekend and basically we created a subclass. And so we have a faction for the organization. And if you want to play Knight of Solamnia, you can play the subclass as a fighter. And then take the different pieces of the knighthood as you go. As you advance, in 5e, as you advance certain levels, you gain certain abilities. And all these abilities tied back to the different knighthoods. So you could pop from Knight of the Crown to Knight of the Sword by doing a knight test, or you could just you could start as Knight of the Rose, because we wanted to stay kind of true to that original material as much as possible, but yet had that flexibility for folks who wanted to play the more rigid. You start as a Crown and move your way up. Right. You still have that option. So. It is a long process. That was the Tasslehoff pouches. John Ryan started the first files on that back in 2015, 16.
Oh wow.
I mean,
Yeah.
some of the very first stuff was written up, and then we took it and we took some of the stuff he did in the last couple of years, really hammered it down into let's keep adding to things. Tim is a wizard when it comes to faction write-ups. Like he just gets it, and he turned the Towers of High Sorcery into a faction with benefits for joining the faction. Same with the Knighthood, same with the Dark Knights. He did all that part of like creation. I tackled things like Draconians and Kender, which for those people who know me creating a Kender race is probably the most comical thing because I hate Kender with a passion.
Really?
This is true.
Criminal.
Kender are not my most favorite race.
Yeah.
In general, but I did take it on myself to create the race for the game for Tasslehoff because I kind of viewed it as if I thought it was a good race, and people playtested thought it was good, like it should be an accepted thing. Because if it's coming from the person who doesn't like the race that much,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna overpower them. But in the same token, the people who are playtesting it come back with feedback like, this doesn't feel right, this doesn't feel like a Kender. I'm willing to make those changes. So the Kender race itself, it probably took me 18 months from the original write-up, which is nothing like what's ended up in Tasslehoff, to the finished product, which is crazy to think I spent that much time on just that.
Your career is going to be defined by Kender now. The one thing.
I was gonna say, it was a laugh because it was one weekend I told Tim and Ed, like, I've got a Kender write up, and they're like, what? They're like, we'll take care of Kender. You deal with anything else but Kender. I'm like, no, I seriously have one. I seriously have designed and developed this, and they looked at it, and we made some tweaks, and we got into the playtesting model, and it came back, made a few more tweaks, and one of the hardest things was that tauntability of a Kender.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Not making it over powerful, but yet I really felt like that has to be something that carries over from 1E, 2E. Like that's a primal part of a Kender, being able to annoy you. So I just pictured myself talking to Trampas and said, how do I get on his nerves?
You talk.
Nice. There's a little Kender in you. Nice.
Yeah.
Top knot up here is gone.
It's funny because it's like I sometimes think, well, I've got the heart of a knight, I've got the attention span of a Kender, and what am I really in Dragonlance? A tinker gnome. So
a little bit of everything. Well, I mean, this was a well-received conversion by and large from everyone I've heard from. Like everyone loves it. You have a unique position of being in where you have made the conversion already, and now you get to witness it being done by WotC. Opinions. I want to hear some of your thoughts about what they've released compared to what you've released. Do you think they've done a better job with the pre-playtesting document framework? Do you think that they've dropped the ball in some areas? I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Oh wow, this is kind of a complicated question because there are certain parts of this I look at and I try to put my game designer hat on, and I'm like, okay, why did they do this? And so I get some of the whys. As I look at this, I'm like, okay, they're going back to the War of the Lance era.
Right.
And so I think it's fair to say that's the most popular era of Dragonlance. Yeah. And I don't blame them for that. There's less buy-in for that because to get to what was the current time period in after War of Souls, it was something like 20 novels of just essential reading to do to get there, and that's way too much to ask. So I get that they're going back to the War of the Lance. I also get that this is 5e, and like Cam Banks told me one time, when you design for a system, you look through the lens of that system when designing things. So, you know, they're approaching it in such a way that they're saying, well, you know, back in 1e, we just had wizards. And now we've got all these other arcane classes, you know, surely they would all fall under the Wizards of High Sorcery. But that sounds a little odd, so now they've changed the name to Mages of High Sorcery. This is something that is controversial amongst fandom. Some folks like the change. Some folks were like, well, no, sorcerers are this way and you're screwing it up and blah, blah, blah. And so you got all that going on. And I don't know, maybe I just look at it as a fork in the river of time. You know, it's kind of its own thing.
Yeah.
Kinder.
I mean, Chuck, what do you think? Because you wrote the Kender already, and now we have this other version. Where do you land on this?
I mean, the company answer is it's yeah.
It's.
I mean,
Kender, quote, it's.
Pretty much what I would say this Kender write-up, and I will say I'm biased, because I really feel like when you look back into DLA, you go back to Tales of the Lance, this does not catch that spirit of what a Kender is.
No, not at all. Yeah.
If I look at this as a race write-up without the name Kender, if you introduced a new race called Leprechaun,
that's exactly
I would say this
right.
Is perfect.
Yeah.
That's funny. I didn't even think about that, but yeah.
Yeah. No, the big problem with this write-up as I see it, and I'm going to preface this by saying, Watsy, we love you, and we're saying this as constructive criticism. But the problem I see with this is that it turns the Kender into something supernatural.
Yeah.
And, you know, Kender, as we know them, are basically an alternate take on halflings in Dragonlance. Rather than hiding in their little hobbit holes in the Shire, you know, they want to go on an adventure and see the world. And you know, when they grab stuff from their pouches, it's not something that magically appears. It's just they don't have the same concept of possessions. They're childlike. They don't steal your money, you know. They don't steal your weapons and everything. They are more interested in that shiny purple stone over there, you know, or that bag of marbles or something like that. So it's something that people don't get that. And part of the problem is there's urban legends about Kender. And then there's people who are just bad players anyway. The same players who play Kender just as an excuse to steal from the rest of the party, they could do the same thing with a human or with an elf or a dwarf or whatever.
I think that has more to do with how the DM handles Kender in a game than it does the player. Because they're the ones that have to sort of set frame, you know, around it, saying this is what's acceptable and what's not, and we need to work with that. But yeah, to your point, I think that's why most people don't, is because people, you know, just it's everything in life, and it's every animal in life. Sometimes there's assholes. That's just the way it is. You know, there's going to be players that just suck, and you don't even want them in your game because of the way they act. That's life. So yeah, you're right. I mean, you just need to, you know, I wouldn't ever blame it on the race or the class. It has everything to do with the individual playing it. You know what I mean?
Right, and understanding of the source material. Yeah. Kender are not something I recommend for someone who's, very new to D&D. I want them to at least read the books, or read up on them and get some sense of them before they actually play them.
I'm going to disagree. I don't think you need to
Okay.
read the books. I think you need to have a decent write-up piece here about Kender in your document. One of the big things that I feel is we have shoehorned Kender into just one kind. And most people make it into the Tasslehoff Burrowfoots.
Yeah.
Happy-go-lucky, but yeah, we don't give people options to understand that Kender are more than just one. They're not all happy-go-lucky, crazy people out on the trail. But yet authors have taken on that stereotype and just kept writing it, and now it's ingrained in people's heads that that's how a Kender is.
Yeah.
And the UA doesn't help it when they reinforce it. And only now they add in they're supernaturally curious, which I am not sure what supernatural curiosity is.
I think it's the Ghostbusters,
maybe,
right?
I was gonna say I was thinking of the old CW show with the brothers, but but I look at that and they, and they're like they're falling through gates and portals, and so when this right on the UA it changes even their own creation story.
Yeah.
Yes. and it's why can't we keep the Grey Gem story, but you modify it a bit. Mm-hmm. You can modify it to make, because I understand with 5e they want to be able to use it across all the worlds.
Yeah. Cool.
I like that. That's great. Mm-hmm. But the same token, like the creation story of it is completely new now. Mm-hmm. Now we have a Feywild connection, and they fall through gates. I mean, they're due to the curiosity, many Kender are falling through gates and portals to other planes and worlds. What? Are they clumsy now too?
But how many gates to different worlds are there just sprouting up, like right in front of Kender?
Exactly.
As they're like traipsing. Wow.
74.
There's exactly 74.
Exactly 74.
In any given moment.
That's the thing. I look at this write-up. The taunt is not bad. It looks awfully familiar. It looks very familiar to one that was written, but the only thing is it does have some issues with some of the rewording of it, which I had run into with playtesting. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is the Kender Ace ability. Now, when I think Ace, I think Fighter Ace. I don't think like Ace like you're pulling something out of a bag. I think you're shooting down enemy fighters. Apparently I've watched too many World War II movies, so where they defeat the Nazis. But
like an American.
That's right. I watch a lot of 1950s propaganda films. So the Kender Ace ability, why not just go with the traditional pouches?
Yeah.
Kender pouches.
The reason they're doing that, I think, if I'm understanding this correctly, is that they're trying to set it up to where Kender are still finding things, but they're not stealing from the rest of the party. They're trying to
seems like such a long way to get there, though. You know what I mean? Yeah. From like an original, to your point, DLA, to 5th edition of, well, we need to make sure they're not taking anything from anyone else, so let's just have them magically produce stuff out of their bag. Like, that's a huge leap between the two, when you could easily just figure some middle ground, it seems like, or maybe just steal from you guys.
And the big sidebar up and talk about handling. That's how you do it. And just about DM and player advice. Here's what handling is. Here's what it is not.
Yep.
Well, and the thing I don't like as a player and a DM looking at the Kender Aces D6 numbers is it's so either you pick an item or you get a random item. It's not quite the same flair as here's 50 or 60 items, some extra tables. or just utilizing the tables they already have in the DMG.
Yeah.
And roll on them.
Well, it really makes me wonder because, you know, Dragonlance was formed around Advanced Dungeons and Dragons as a game system, which was an easy port over to second edition. Then they completely abandoned it with the Saga system and tried something brand new, hoping to, you know, reignite the brand. Didn't exactly work out as they planned, and so they went back and they sort of farmed out the work with third edition, but they still, it seemed like, tried to stay as true as they could while adding in an insane amount of rules and options that third edition had. Ignored it for fourth edition.
Which is what third edition did, you know.
Yeah. And so I guess it starts to make me think, with fourth edition, the game mechanics were so MMO that everyone was magical, everyone had a sort of magical ability. Dragonlance didn't really fit with that in my head. Fifth edition doesn't seem so dissimilar from that. And so it starts to make me think, are there, and this is flying in the face of what I said earlier in the conversation, but are there editions where some campaign worlds just don't really conform well enough to maintain the integrity of the campaign?
That's a tough one. So what I will say about Dragonlance is that it is a D&D setting.
Yeah.
D&D has had multiple interpretations over the years. You know, AD&D first, second edition, you know, third. We don't talk about fourth and fifth, and you know, Pathfinder. You can play Dragonlance with all those.
Yeah.
You know, so yes, I think Dragonlance does very well with D&D because it was formed on D&D. Each system has their bonuses and negatives, you know, and throughout the years I've converted things from one system to another. I think I burned myself out on that actually. And so what I've found is every time you convert from one system to another, you gain something and you lose something. You know, as you know, take the Knights of the Rose. They were not spellcasters originally, but you get to third edition, and if you follow third edition game mechanic rules, you know, since you had to be a sword knight before you became a rose knight, well, they had to continue with that spell casting, and you'll see that on that chart in the Dragonlance campaign setting. It just doesn't fit. Now, are there some worlds that have a harder time with things than others? Some. I mean, the realms are going to be fine no matter what. Dark Sun. I like Dark Sun. It has certain elements to it that are a little harder, a little more difficult. You know, now that psionics has been folded back into magic, then that causes some issues with psionics in that setting. This is the part where Chuck yawns because I mentioned psionics at least 3 times a week. But you know, you got stuff like that. And then as time goes on too, and social norms change, you know, what we looked at 20 years ago looks a little different these days. And that's and that's reflected in the game rules, and you know, even as they change. And so, you know, there have been people who questioned, well, can we do Dark Sun, since part of Dark Sun was, you know, slavery. And you know, I think, yeah, you can. You just got to say, hey, slavery bad, just like Nazis. And so it could be a challenge. I think any of the D&D settings can be done in 5th edition. You're going to gain something, you're going to lose a little something. Chuck disagrees with me.
I do. I don't think Dark Sun can be done in 5th edition well because of the way the world's set up. The mechanics of the game would not flow very well. Dark Sun did very well in 4th edition. because of the fact that Dark Sun feels kind of like an MMO. It's got that same gritty system that really did well with the 4th edition mechanics. It did well in 3rd edition-ish. It's sweet spot once again with 2nd edition. But I just don't feel like 5th edition mechanics in Dark Sun, the two worlds, unless you greatly redo a lot of it, don't work well together. I had similar thoughts with Greyhawk in 4th edition. That didn't work well together. I think Greyhawk in 5th edition would work really well together. I'm really surprised that they haven't pushed for it yet. Spelljammer couldn't do 4th edition Spelljammer. Spelljammer 5th edition, that's a possibility. Spelljammer 3rd edition, you need like 400 rule books. So with the, so what, there are certain systems that I agree with the comment that they just don't fit, because you'd have to create such a plethora of content that you would have some more splat books than people playing at certain points.
Yeah, and the other thing to go along with that is with Dark Sun is and 4th edition is the power sources. They broke everything into the power sources like martial, arcane, divine, primal, and psionic, and so that became real easy to give it that feel of the gods are dead by saying there is no divine power source, period, the end. And I looked at the way they did that and I'm like, that's genius.
That's why I said 4th edition Dark Sun is, to me, if you want to play pure Dark Sun, play 4th edition. Nice. I know the rule mechanics I don't like, but that's the edition that really fits the setting really well.
Yeah, certain editions will work, but they don't necessarily work the best.
Yeah. I'll tell you what keeps me up a little bit at night. Not a lot, but it's a thought that that's been spinning around in my head. If we do get a WotC version of a Dragonlance source book, and if we get any Dragonlance material, I think that's the best we're going to get is a source book. Then, just because of the way they've built out 5th edition with all the different manuals and stuff, if it becomes the most adopted version of a Dragonlance campaign, if it becomes the most popular, most played version of a Dragonlance game, and we finally get that dream of having a live action film or series made, are they going to base it on 5th edition Dragonlance and not original 1st edition Dragonlance? And would that matter? Because if we got Kender running around like the UA doc, that's a very different Dragonlance. What do you think about that?
I think that's a lot of ifs.
Yeah. They're ifs that bug me.
Really do. So I'm going to say, we had one Dragonlance movie already, and people are passionate about it. I
told you mixing 2 different types of animation would never work.
So true.
I told him go ahead. It was all on me.
It was your fault. First the Nazis, then Dragonlance animated show.
That.
But even Lord of the Rings had the old
Rankin Bass animation, yeah.
Yeah. And those I still like those. But it's no Peter Jackson, of course. Yeah. Will Dragonlance eventually have live action? Maybe, possibly. But only time will tell there. Will it be based more on 5e or more on Chronicles? I think it kind of depends upon sales. Chronicles is beloved.
Yeah.
It's a classic. So I think that's kind of where they would head. But Hollywood being Hollywood, they've been known to change things. And if you look at Wheel of Time, now I've not read Wheel of Time. I've got a friend who's a big Wheel of Time fan, and he says, that first season they've got elements from like book 1 and book 3, and so it could very well be that they take stuff from all over and pour it together and make what they think is the best story for the medium.
Yeah, I mean, oh, sorry, go ahead.
As I honestly feel that they will not use Chronicles. I honestly feel like they'll do a different perspective of War of the Lands. You might see cameos of those characters, but I really do feel that they want to tell their own story. And it will be that 5e version story, most likely, of Kinder falling out of the sky, apparently.
Just tripping through wormholes in space.
Yeah.
So messed up.
Paratrooping Kender.
Yeah. 580, 1st Kender Regiment.
That's right.
Oh, man.
Landing on the shores of Sanction.
Storming the beaches of... Yeah. Okay.
Storming the beaches of Tarsus.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this has been a lot of fun for me to talk with you guys about this. Tasslehoff's Pouches of Everything is out. It's free, and I have to ask you guys about that because you put so much effort in it. Why not just have like a couple bucks or something as the price?
Can't. Legally cannot. The second we sell that and make any sort of profit, whether it's 2 cents or $2 or 200, then WotC's saying, hey, you're making a profit using our IP, cease and desist, and then we're done.
Okay.
And our goal is to keep Dragonlance alive. This is a passion project.
Right.
The goal, I mean, could we make money doing something else? Yeah, but it wouldn't be Dragonlance. And so what we have set up is to where there is a Patreon if you want to support us. And so then that way the Patreon can kind of help us to pay the bills. But we're not using that to go out and become rich and buy that new Mercedes,
It's mainly supporting the website and keeping us active, buying that space on the internet so we can have a page. So that way Trampas doesn't have to work a 3rd and 4th jobs to keep it going.
Yeah. You don't have to do your street working again? Those days are behind you?
Independence Avenue here in Kansas City is famous for a number of reasons, and some of them I am legally bound not to talk about. So
that's my corner. You get off it.
Are you wearing my heels?
The big reason why Tasslehoff is free, though, is once you start putting a dollar amount on any project you do, people judge it differently.
Right.
The higher the dollar amount, the more they want out of it then. Yeah. So I like to set the bar low. And that when people see free content and they see that there's a lot of work and effort, time put into it, they're more. The thank yous and the appreciative comments I've gotten. I've only gotten a few questions about a few different things in the book, which is I was expecting. I was pretty nervous when we put that book out. I was expecting a shitstorm of responses of like, "Why did you do this? You ruined Dragonlance. My childhood will never be the same." I have not gotten that yet. I've gotten nothing but favorable comments, other than a few, like I said, a few things like here, this is misspelled or this is misworded. Easy things are fixed.
I told you I'm sorry about that. Yeah. No, that's the nice thing too is we've been able to make a few updates here and there. Just minor little things like if someone catches a little something that slipped by us in editing, or if we find a better way of doing something, we can update it. A little bit. I mean, we can't do any major updates that would totally change the page layouts, but you know, if
You're
you
still
find that.
pushing for your calendar spread? Because I already said no.
Hot. Just get him on the street corner.
Exactly.
You know,
In that
I have
crop
this
top and miniskirt.
leopard print.
Fishnets for days.
Oh,
man.
yeah. My legs don't quit.
Okay. I got an image. So I think that's great though, because it becomes a living document, and because it can be updated so quickly and easily, relatively speaking, certainly compared to something that's been printed 10 million copies and sold in bookstores, that you can actually have an everlasting impact on the campaign world by just adding and correcting to the existing document and people just re-downloading. I think that's great. But that's not the beginning and end of what you guys have done. You've also put out an adventure that's an adaptation of an old MS-DOS game from back in my childhood, which is pretty damn awesome. Can you talk just a little bit about Champions of Krynn?
Yeah, that's my childhood also. I can remember growing up watching my older brother play that game and being mesmerized by it. And nowadays, look at the graphics, you're like,
yeah,
really? You stared at that for hours? At that time, that was a highlight. That was a pinnacle of computer gaming at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Especially growing up in a place where you didn't have a lot of D&D groups. So Champions of Krynn had a huge impact in my life growing up. That's the one computer game I probably played a dozen times in middle school and high school.
Wow, yeah.
And since then.
And earlier today.
10 minutes ago. But it's one of those games that really stuck with me as telling the story of Dragonlance that I really enjoyed. It takes place post-War of the Lance.
Mm-hmm.
And post-War of the Lance, there's just not a ton of stuff out there, really. You've got Flint's Axe, you've got Knight's Sword, you got a few smattering of adventures, but you don't have anything epic campaign-wise. Right. And for the last 20 years, I've had this idea kind of swishing around in my head about how can we make this computer game a continuation of the War of the Land series. And I've done it a couple times. I did a small variation in 3rd edition, which I did the first couple of parts and ran them at cons. But it takes a while. If you have a 4-hour block, it took almost the whole con to get that two parts, that first half of the document kind of out there. And then I put it on the back burner because 4th edition came along, and I said, I'm out. See you later. And when 5th edition came back around, it just kept nagging at me. Like I came across the notes one day, and I'm like reading through, and I'm like, okay, I can finish this. I can put the rest of this out finally because I have a path. I know what I want to do. I played the game through one more time. I made sacrifices there.
Wow, yeah.
Because
he took one for the team.
Those graphics have not held up well, but it was a fun ride down memory lane. So taking notes along the way, reading the clue book, and now then taking that back and looking at what I've written down and saying, I don't want to create something exactly the same. Because that story they tell in the game is a lot of random encounters with story elements pieced here and there. I want to take those story elements and then take those encounters you have and then focus it into a path. And I wish I could do a big branching path of sandbox, but I can't. That's the thing. I've tried. I've done this game. This is something I started back in 2020 when the pandemic first hit it. Yeah. I sat down at GaryCon and they went virtual, and I ran it as one of the sessions.
Cool.
And I tried to do it as an open sandbox 4-hour adventure. Talk about herding cats.
Yeah, for sure.
Because that's also one of the first times I've thrown Kendra out to playtest too. So there was a lot of herding going on. But it was a ton of fun, and I got looking at like, okay, how can I fix this? And I'm like, you know what? Let's look at the game and let's take those elements and not add a ton of extra parts to it to try to flesh out the world. Throttle is fleshed out enough. Let's make it take maps and let's use what's known about Throttle, and then add to it. Let's add to the locations. You know, this is taking place. The closest map with Throttle out there is in Cam's Adventure trilogy that takes place after the Overlords, the Dragon Lords, are all wiped out. So I rewrote that, and that's the one thing about here is I'm trying to capture the spirit of the original computer game and not the actual playthrough. And you know, going through it now, I just finished up chapter 2. And chapter 2 should be coming out, I would say shortly. The art's done, maps are done. Just has to go through Tim's editing magic.
Oh, very cool.
It should be out fairly soon, as Ed just needs to lay it out. I think in a month it will be out. And I've started playtesting chapter 3, and I have chapter 4 laid out. And so when I'm doing these parts, I'm looking at them like, I gotta keep capturing the main elements of the game here, but yet let's not stray into uncharted territory. You know, I have to keep reining myself back into, well, you know, you've got the ogre base raid where they go out and they find the assassin. You go, I should add more plot to that. I should make it more detailed, more deeper. And I'm like, you know, going through the notes, I'm like 25, 30 pages of fighting ogres over and over again. Maybe it's not quite so appealing to people.
Yeah.
But 14-year-old Chuck would have loved it.
You're right.
You know, like I said, when it comes to kind of figuring this out, it comes to a lot of just kind of trying to fine tune it. And then I have a great group of guys who play test. And they take these adventures, they get feedback, and some of them have never heard of Champions of Krynn.
Oh wow.
The younger generation.
Yeah. Can't trust these kids.
No, but they'll come back and they'll make comments about the story and how they feel things have went, and it's really interesting that sometimes they latch onto elements that I don't think are particularly important, but they'll be like, no, you really need to put more details into the backstory of the Sir Larson Strangeborn. They're like, we need more backstory of this guy. We need to know more of his motives, so when we encounter him, we know how to run him.
Right.
That's yeah. I'm like, okay, I can do that.
All right, you need more cowbell.
Exactly.
But not on a Minotaur.
Right.
Never got to the Minotaur part yet.
That's gonna be in your Tasslehoff pouch. Is the cowbell.
You know, that the thing I've learned over the years, and I talk about these talented people that I've surrounded myself with, is if you find someone and they've got a passion for something, let them run with it and get the hell out of their way, you know. And some of our best work with the Nexus over the years has just been that. And for me, it's a joy right now watching Chuck with this, you know, because you know, you see that sparkle in his eyes and everything, and you can tell the passion's there. He's having fun, and I'm here like, you know, if I micromanage this, I could just ruin this for everybody. So you do your thing, and whatever you need from me, I'm here to help. And it works.
Yeah,
it just really works. And we all have our things we're passionate about, and you know, I've got Chuck, who's my uber creative adventure guy now, and I've got Ed, who's my social media guy, and you know, you get all these people together and you create something truly special. You know, we've seen the other fan sites, and they all have something really good to them and everything. And I'd like to think that we kind of stand out a little bit because we go further, we adapt, we change, we embrace technology.
Yeah.
And I purchased a cassette player for the Nexus now, so we're really up there.
You just moved from 8-track to cassette, huh? Yeah, you do embrace that technology.
Damn straight. No, but that's the thing. You have to change.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to adapt. As there's new rule systems, you've got to be able to go with the flow with that. You can't just say, "Oh, new edition sucks." Period. The end. You got to say, "Well, this is where the future is," and if we're supporting WotC with what they're doing, then that keeps us relevant.
Mm-hmm.
It also keeps us in the minds of fans, and it keeps Dragonlance alive.
Right.
And so then when we have something like the playtest document, and I'm sorry, my dog's here begging for attention. So with like the playtest document, we can look at this and we can say, well, there's things I like and there's things I don't like, and things that seem off. But at the same time, we could still be supportive and say, hey, we're going to have the best discussion about it we can. And we're going to get everybody that we can to play test this, to run it through its paces, and to provide feedback.
Right.
And so if they get enough people, for example, saying, hey, you kind of turned Kinder into something they're not, they'll look at that and they'll say, oh, maybe we need to dial it back a bit or approach it differently.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's how you change.
That's literally the point of that document too, is that it is a playtest document, and that they are seeking feedback. So if I'm hearing you correct, you just want everyone to send them your Tasslehoff smouches of everything as feedback, right? Is that?
Well,
you're all wrong.
We're not saying this, but if they want to put a link, no, it's I honestly want people to provide their honest feedback, whether it agrees with me or not.
Right.
Because that's what makes the game better. There's going to be people who are not big Dragonlance fans who are going to say, well, you need to change this. It may not agree with us Dragonlance fans, but it may make for a better product overall.
Nice. Okay.
Boy, I have to keep writing these feedback forms, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
The secret is multiple emails.
Just don't stop.
Multiple IP addresses. Did I say that?
Well, I want to thank both of you. We've gone well over the hour that I was expecting for the discussion. I really appreciate you guys' time. I appreciate everything that you've done, not just for the Dragonlance community at large through the website, but also the gaming community by having all of those different additions, conversions, and documents supporting information continuing to exist on the website. It's a great resource for fans like us. And it's really appreciated by everyone I know that I've ever talked to, because that's where we've all met. That's where we all go to. It's the cheers of Dragonlance, So thank you guys so much for your time. Do you want to let the good people watching know where they can find you online? Maybe if they didn't get the URL already, or what different social media outlets are on?
Well, let's see. First of all, you can find our website at DragonlanceNexus.com. We are on Facebook and Twitter. And we have a group on Facebook called Dragonlance Fandom. That's kind of been the evolution of the online Dragonlance community. So check us out there. And we're just all over. Plus, we do the Twitch game. It's kind of a quasi-monthly game I say quasi because we're adults with schedules, but Ed's been running us through this thing called Dragons of the River of Time. And it's really fun because we're in a time travel romp of an adventure. And, so we're seeing all these eras. And so we're hoping that folks can see how Dragonlance can be played using 5th edition, and just how a group of super passionate, nerdy Dragonlance geeks can just have fun together and create our own story.
Nice. You do also have a formal podcast, right? The Canticle.
Oh, yeah. That is the Dragonlance Canticle. And that's something that Chuck was helping out on, and we're kind of transitioning things so he can focus on adventures. But the Dragonlance Canticle is, there's a link to it on our website. It's dragonlancenexus.com/podcast. That has been going on for a while now. We're a monthly podcast. We talk about novels. We talk about games. We try to mix it up, talk about the world of Krynn, and just have some fun.
That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, once again. I hope you have a wonderful evening, and keep up the good work, because it's great. It's just great seeing some Dragonlance content, but also some good Dragonlance content.
Well, it's our pleasure, and we're happy to see the work that you've been doing and other YouTube creators. Just seeing people keep the torch alive. So you keep up the good work as well.
Yeah. And that is all for my interview with Dragonlance Nexus. Do you think their Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition conversion is better than the Unearthed Arcana Heroes of Krynn conversion? Have you ever used their conversions to play the game? Feel free to email me at info@dlsaga.com or comment below. I'd like to take a moment and remind you to subscribe to this YouTube channel, ring the bell to get notified about upcoming videos, and click the like button. This all goes to help other Dragonlance fans learn about this channel and its content. This channel is all about celebrating the wonderful world of the Dragonlance Saga, and I hope you'll join me in the celebration. Thank you for watching. This has been Adam with Dragonlance Saga, and until next time, Slanjavar.